The third time she hit it, I stopped believing in coincidence. The first time, I told myself, it happens. New driver, winter slush, sun in her eyes. The second time, I told myself I should have moved it back a few inches. Maybe the garbage truck pushed our cans too close to the curb. Maybe it was my fault for not babysitting a mailbox like it was a puppy. The third time, those same SUV, same driver, same casual roll off the accelerator that carried her passenger side tire over the lip of the curb and straight into my post like she was docking a boat? No. The third time, I set my coffee down and said a sentence out loud to an empty kitchen that felt like I was finally telling the truth. She's doing this because she can get away with it. The post leaned like a tired tree. The box itself black, standard size, the kind the HOA mandates because aesthetic unity hung crooked, door warped so it never quite latched again. Inside was the HOA's second love letter in as many months. Kindly repair or replace mailbox to maintain community standards, Section 5.3, Uniform Streetscape. Failure to comply within 10 days may result in fines. No, sorry your mailbox keeps getting treated like a speed bump. No, here's camera footage we collected for you. Just fix it again. I stood there, wet snow seeping into my socks through one dumb hole in one dumb boot, and I realized how small and angry a person can feel watching a small and careless act repeat like a song you hate. Her name is Marlene, but the neighborhood calls her Karen, because nicknames are cruel and sometimes lazy and often painfully accurate. She's the one who writes anonymous notes about excessive wind chimes, who measures your holiday reindeer with a tape to make sure none of them are over scale, who once called the police on a lemonade stand because the girls were soliciting without a permit. She also drives a silver SUV with a hood that's exactly mailbox height, and she leaves a little too fast at 8:55 a.m. for a woman who lives exactly 4 minutes from the school drop-off. I bought a new post. I bought a new box. I aimed a motion camera at it because trust is a thing that wears out before wood does. I set the camera to send a clip to my phone on motion, and went to bed that night with a churn in my stomach that wasn't caffeine or anger, it was anticipation. At 02 the next morning, the camera buzzed. There she was, nose of the SUV nosing just over the line, tire bumping the curb, a little jut of wheel the kind drivers do when they look left at the four-way and forget the geometry of their right. Tap. Not a demolition derby hit, a casual shove. The post flexed, the box vibrated. My face got hot anyway. She paused. Her brake lights flared. She looked at the post like it had offended her. Then she drove away. I printed 2 frames, the moment of contact and the license plate. I walked up the block. She was unloading 2 reusable bags and a latte. "Morning," I said. "We have to talk about the mailbox." For a second, she gave me a smile that said, I absolutely do not have to talk about anything. And then she saw the printouts in my hand. The smile tightened. "If you're implying," she began. "I'm not implying," I said. "You hit it 3 times this morning at 8:02. She glanced past me at her door like a hostage might practice a sprint. "It's barely a tap," she said. "The HOA shouldn't let you put it that close to the curb." "The HOA," I said, "sends me fines when you hit it." She shrugged. "Then move it." "There's a federal placement standard," I said, "because I'm that guy who Googles instead of sleeps. USPS, front of the mailbox 6 to 8 inches back from the curb, bottom of the box 41 to 45 inches above road surface. If I move it, they stop delivering." "Sounds like a you problem," she said, and took a sip. I went to the HOA office with the printouts and a polite anger that I wrote down in bullet points so it wouldn't come out sideways. "I'm getting fined for damage someone else is causing. You have cameras at the clubhouse corner that catch the approach. Pull them." The manager glanced at the prints, at me, at a screen. We don't adjudicate neighbor disputes. We enforce standards." "Your standard is make the victim pay?" I asked. She affected a sigh that sounded expensive. "We simply need the mailbox maintained. We don't have authority to determine fault. You have authority to stop fining me while I fix what your board member keeps breaking." That landed. She blinked. Tiny victory.
We'll pause the violation. Please resolve the matter with the other homeowner amicably. She's not a homeowner, I said. She's a demolition derby funded by a latte budget. Anger tells you to do big things fast. Pour concrete into a post, cement it into a boulder, install a steel bollard with grudges and anchors. Common sense and a quick scan of Articles 2 and 5 of the CCRs told me that was a lawsuit with my name on it. USPS regulations require a breakaway support. State code phrases it like a warning label. Immovable posts increase crash severity. If a car hits your fortress and somebody gets hurt, congratulations, you've been creative and negligent. I'm petty, not suicidal. So I did what my grandfather used to do when a fence got cut. I made a list. USPS standards, county right-of-way regs, DOT guidance on breakaway mailbox designs, HOA mailbox and streetscape guidelines. I learned more about mailbox engineering than any man should. I learned about swing-away mounts, hinged brackets that let the box deflect and spring back rather than shatter. I learned about 4x4 wooden posts set in tamped crushed stone, not concrete, so they snap on impact rather than act like a battering ram. I learned about steel sleeves that slide over a wood core, adding rigidity without turning into a spear, used in rural snow country where plows fight winters the way I fight coffee. And I learned about decorative planters that count as landscaping, not barricades, placed 18 inches off the curb with reflective tape. DOT loves reflectors, and 36 inches apart, so a tire on a lazy morning might scuff a pot instead of my soul. I also learned about cameras, real ones. The HOA's clubhouse cam wasn't my friend, but a $99 doorbell lens and a $39 solar floodlight can see everything a slow SUV does. I moved a camera to a low angle to catch bumpers and a high one to catch plates. I framed my field like a director. Curb line, box face, her driveway. Evidence is a better revenge than sarcasm. I wrote an application to the Architectural Review Committee that read like a love letter to compliance. Proposed, USPS-compliant swing-away mailbox mount, hinged, galvanized steel arm, standard black box, USPS approved, 4x4 cedar post set in tamped gravel, no concrete, decorative planters, 18 inches off curb, 36 inches apart, reflective delineator strips per DOT, and a small mulch bed within 24 inches of post. Purpose: reduce damage and repeat replacements, increase visibility for drivers, maintain uniform streetscape, zero impact on snowplows, mail carriers, or sightlines. I included diagrams, measurements, manufacturer specs, pictures of identical mounts 3 streets over. I CC'd the manager and the board. I CC'd my neighbor because daylight is a disinfectant and a guardrail. The ARC met on a Thursday to decide whether I could stop bleeding money on a post. I brought donuts and a printed copy of the USPS Domestic Mail Manual that I highlighted like a law student trying to impress someone unfortunate. I explained breakaway. I explained swing away. I explained reflective delineation for safety. One committee member actually smiled. He said, "We can approve this. It's safer than what people use now." The chair nodded, as long as the planters are not in the right-of-way and the mulch bed stays tidy. Approved 4-0. The manager emailed me a "congratulations," like I'd won a raffle for the privilege of not buying a new mailbox every 2 weeks. I installed it on a Saturday morning with a level and a column Al had to borrow from a playlist. The hinged arm looked like something NASA would bolt to aluminum. The cedar post smelled like essentials. The planters, 2 heavy ceramic drums the color of rain, looked like they belonged on a porch in a nicer neighborhood. I filled them with river rock because soil grows weeds, and a weed near a mailbox is a fine near a man's patience. I stuck 2 reflective strips on the rims. I installed the swing arm so the box would drop and pivot if nudged. I tamped the gravel with a pride that felt like overkill and exactly right. Then I put the old bent post and mangled box in my garage to remind myself what petty looks like when it wins.
The first week after the swing-away install, nothing happened, which is exactly what you pray to the God of petty justice for. A boring week. The arm flexed when the garbage truck's guy tossed a can too hard. The box snapped back like a gymnast with a forgiving coach. The planters glowed at night like 2 lighthouses for people whose memory for geometry degrades near sunrise. The camera saw everything a person would need to build a montage of nothing, and I slept better. which is a type of miracle. On day 8, 8:01 a.m., the lens caught the familiar silver hood nosing past the corner. She rolled through the four-way like a person whose entire body dislikes stopping and drifted toward my curb like gravity had opinions. Top. The hinge did what it was born to do. It flexed, let the box swing out on its arc, and then, when the tire rolled off the curb and back onto asphalt, it sprang back to plumb with a gentle thunk that would make an engineer cry. The lid didn't even pop. Two planters stared with the quiet discipline of soldiers who don't blink. Her brake lights flared. She paused. She stepped out to look. She frowned. She did the thing people do when they suspect the universe is making fun of them. She reached out and pushed the box with a finger like she was testing to see if I had booby-trapped it with spite. It swung. It returned. She left. 2 hours later, my inbox chimed. Notice of violation. Non-standard mailbox apparatus. Apparently, Miss Harlow, I know, you can't make up a name that convenient, had filed a complaint. Mailbox appears to be fortified with metal, potential hazard for vehicles, violates uniform streetscape. The manager attached a photo of my perfectly approved NASA arm with an accusing emoji, and for a second I laughed in a way that probably sounded dangerous. I replied with my ARC approval letter, my install photos, the USPS spec, the manufacturer doc showing breakaway certified, and a one-sentence question. Are we now fining for safer than standard? The manager replied with one line and a PDF. We have rescinded the violation. Please accept our apologies. I accepted. I did not reply. No takebacks.
Fixing a mailbox with someone you've wanted to throttle is a strange sacrament. She held the post level while I marked the lag holes. I drilled while she fetched bolts. We both pretended the moment wasn't as weird as it was. Her husband stepped out once with coffee and a face that carried the delicate expression men wear when wandering into a situation that has a backstory they don't own. Nice hinge, he said, and I decided to like him on purpose. We installed the swing arm on her post in 20 minutes. She flexed it with a finger the way she'd tested mine days before, but with curiosity instead of suspicion. Clever, she said. It's just a lever, I said. Like most good ideas. She laughed, a sound with less edge than I'd ever heard, and for a second I remembered that Karen is a nickname for a person who wasn't born to be a punchline. People turn into their worst traits when no one stops them and when the systems around them reward petty behavior with attention. Systems can be rewritten. So can people, if they're tired enough of themselves. The curb paint held, the delineators became part of our corner's furniture. When snow came, the plow driver waved once at me because the delineators made his job easier, not harder. They saved his blade in the dark. Mail delivery never skipped a beat because I'd spent 12 minutes talking to our carrier about heights and setbacks like a nerd at a mailbox convention. The manager adopted a swing-away recommended line in the mailbox guideline 1 month later, and 24 houses replaced their beat-up posts with hinges that made our block look like a grant got funded. Then the HOA Council sent an email I never expected. Proposed streetscape update, pilot program for flexible delineators at problem corners, reflective curb painting, and driver awareness campaign. I didn't ask for a plaque. They didn't offer one. Someone had the sense to call it safety improvements, not reforms, because humans hate admitting they needed to change, but they enjoy believing they are improving. The board voted it through 5-0 because who votes against safety and makes that the headline? There was one more twist. There always is. 2 weeks after the hinge on Karen's box, my camera caught a new hit. Not her. A delivery van backing was guided by a helper who never looks at the spot they're supposed to be looking at. The van's bumper kissed the swing arm, the arm flexed, the box swung, and the helper did a hop like they'd seen a magic trick. The driver pulled forward, examined the box, shrugged, I'm learning to hate that shrug, and started to leave. My phone was already dialing by the time he pulled past my driveway.
I stepped out, waved, and smiled like a person practicing adulthood. Hey, you tapped my mailbox. Good news? It's fine. Bad news? My camera sees everything. He apologized. He gave me his info. I sent an estimate to the company for repainting 2 scuffed planters and a curb edge. They paid without a fight. It turns out when the world sees you as organized, people choose the path of least resistance. It also turns out that a curb looks great after it gets repainted twice in one season. You think a story about a mailbox ends when the box stops getting destroyed. It doesn't. It ends when the neighborhood stops practicing destruction. After the delineators and the paint and the hinges, speeds at our corner dropped by what my neighbor Tim, who bought a radar gun because of course he did, measured at 3 to 5 miles per hour during school rush. That's the difference between a scuffed bumper and a hospital. Our block chat turned from complaint theater to what I can only describe as politely nosy solidarity. Someone added, "Drive like your mailbox lives here," to the bottom of the PTA email. I didn't cry. I did take a picture and send it to my grandfather's contact on my phone that I never deleted. There was a formal reckoning too. The board adopted 3 changes that sound boring and prevent angry men like me from spending Saturdays with a post-hole digger. 1. An automatic 10-day cure period and a warning before mailbox fines, unless the box is a genuine hazard, like hanging into the road like a drunk. 2. A rule that mailbox posts must be wood, aluminum, or approved breakaway steel sleeves, no concrete sleeves, no masonry, no rebar spears. And the HOA will publish and keep an approved products list. 3. An exception in the uniform streetscape section that allows reflective tape and flexible delineators within DOT guidelines, so safety can't be aestheticed out of the picture. Karen came by one evening carrying a foil-covered plate like a sitcom apology. "Chocolate chip," she said. "Still warm." We stood in my driveway and ate too many, the sun turning the cul-de-sac the color my mother calls sins forgiven. She didn't say sorry like a script. She said it like a person who had finally heard herself. I was mad and tired, and I gave myself permission to be careless. I nodded. We all do. It's easier when the world lets us. We looked at our matching hinges like 2 kids who bought the same shoes by accident. "I won't hit yours again. I won't move mine into the road." We laughed. It wasn't a truce, because there hadn't been a war. It was an upgrade for 2 humans who share a street and a mail carrier.